This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Vito, I want to tell you about a great Detroit sports website and a website that's going national as well, theathletic.com. I mean, Vito, they do in-depth coverage. They do a little bit more than the average newspaper in that they have a little bit more time to do the work. And I've had a lot of opportunity now to read a lot of the articles from The Athletic, and it's been really an amazing collaboration. I mean, you get a sense of what these athletes are thinking during games, after games. You get a sense of in-depth profiles. You get a sense of what it's like to be an athlete, to be a coach, and things like that. So if you're a sports fan out there and you're not subscribed to The Athletic, I really do believe you're missing out. And our listeners have an opportunity to subscribe and save 20% by going to theathletic.com/DSP. That's theathletic.com/DSP for 20% savings. I really do believe you're not going to miss out. It's a great website. Vito and I are reading it every single day. Right, Vito?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Go check out theathletic.com/DSP. All right, Vito, let's check the report. Another edition here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Good to see ya. We're here on a Thursday recording this edition of Check the Report after a week off. So our last episode was episode number 5 of Check the Report. We had Bakari Alexander on from Detroit Mercy, also Greg Campy from Oakland University, talking about that matchup in the Metro Series rivalry between OU and Detroit Mercy. Obviously, kind of recapping that really quick now, it's kind of a distant memory, but OU won at Callahan Hall. And OU has had a good season for the most part, has had a few stumbling blocks, but not as many as Detroit Mercy as we know, too.
This week, Vito, is the week of the Super Bowl. Everyone's excited. What do we got on this week's podcast?
We're going to talk to Dan Miller of Fox 2 Detroit, and also we should be talking to Sky Kerstein as well, also from Fox 2 Detroit Doc.
Our friends at Fox 2 have always treated us pretty well. Sky's a good man. Dan has always been kind to the project. I'm looking forward to get a sense from them. Are they excited about the Super Bowl? What are the keys to victory for both teams? And potentially, who do they think is going to walk away from the Super Bowl victorious? Are you getting excited as the week has progressed leading up to it? The storylines have been relatively quiet. Not a lot of news has been made. I mean, the biggest news and stink was Tom Brady ending a radio interview. Other than that, you know, you have Tuesday, you have Media Day, you have all the idiots out there asking silly questions, you have the events going on at Radio Row. But in the end, Vito, this year's Super Bowl right now is kind of devoid of storyline, so it's just one of those things where on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, everyone's going to get together, everyone's going to watch that contest, and they're going to see, can the man be knocked off? Because, like Ric Flair always says, to be the man, you have to beat the man. And the Eagles are going to be tasked with trying to go out there and defeat Tom Brady, because even if they get out to a 2-touchdown lead early in the first half, a lot of people won't have confidence that they can close the game out, because when you got Bill Belichick, when you got Tom Brady out there on that football field, the game is never over. So if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you're tasked with, on that whiteboard, and when you're in these meetings, your job is play a complete 60-minute game in this contest. Even if you're up 3, 4, 5 touchdowns, keep the pedal to the metal. Never believe you have the game won until the clock reads 0-0-0, and then double check to make sure that you won it, because it will take that kind of effort. But Philadelphia, if there is a team out there that can do it, it's the Philadelphia Eagles with that defense led by Jim Schwartz.
And you can't take your foot off of the gas pedal. You're right. When you're up by 3 points, a touchdown, you got to keep scoring against the Patriots or you're not going to win the ball game. We know that much about this matchup with all these teams facing the Patriots. But this year, too, and now especially this year, the Eagles playing the New England Patriots, going for Lombardi Trophy number 6.
You excited for the game?
I'm always excited. It's a Super Bowl, man. I mean, I got to be excited. And I am, realistically, even though once again, could be a letdown kind of ball game where it's a blowout in favor of the Patriots. I keep saying that. I've been harping on that all week long here on the DSP network. But I really think that more and more as the week has gone along, that Tom Brady is not going to lose this game to the undermanned, at least partially undermanned Philadelphia Eagles, led by a backup quarterback in Nick Foles, who's been great in the playoffs, great before as the starting quarterback of the Eagles, but now as a backup, signed to be the backup, and replacing Carson Wentz, who could have been the MVP if he would have been healthy the full regular season. Now it's Tom Brady, more than likely, is a regular season most valuable player, and could very well be the Super Bowl MVP as well.
All right, Vito, let's get Dan Miller on the phone line. I'm looking forward to get his insight regarding the Super Bowl. Always enjoy talking to Dan Miller, the play-by-play voice of the Detroit Lions.
And out joining us on this week's episode of Check the Report is the sports director at Fox 2 Detroit and the Lions radio play-by-play voice, Dan Miller. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Very good. Great to have you on this week's episode of Check the Report as well. And before we dive into the Lions and into Super Bowl 52 talk, I did want to touch on the trade, the blockbuster deal involving the Detroit Pistons. It went down earlier this week, and it was a trade with the Los Angeles Clippers for their star power forward, Blake Griffin. Now, in your opinion, Dan, what are the pros and cons of that acquisition from the Pistons' perspective?
Well, the pro, number one, is you get Blake Griffin, who, even at 28 and not being the athlete that he was maybe 3 years ago, is still a heck of a player and has actually become a more well-rounded player. Better shooter, better passer, terrific ball handler, can actually handle the point for you at times. So he is the kind of guy that they've been trying to get for a while, as Stan Van Gundy says, the kind of guy that you put out on the court and he makes everybody better. He's not a top 5 NBA player, but he's really, really good. And immediately, I think he changes the entire dynamic of your team, becomes the best player on your team. And historically, I think in trades, when you get the best player in a trade, oftentimes you win the trade. We'll have to wait and see on that. The downside is he's got a lot of money coming. You are fully committed to him because of that money. He's got a significant injury of history. He's played of injuries. He's played 8 seasons in the NBA. 3 times he's been able to play 70 or more games. So you run the risk of him getting hurt, and all of a sudden you've got an asset that is either worthless or nearly worthless. So it is a trade that I understand that a lot of people have arguments on both sides for. I truthfully went back and forth on it a little bit, but for me, here's the bottom line. They weren't going anywhere with the mix that they had. It's a roll of the dice that I think in the end that I make because I really think he's a terrific player. But here's the key. Everybody wants to focus on Griffin. It's not really about Blake. Yeah, he's got to stay healthy, and he's got to continue to be the guy that he is. But to me, it is about where does Stanley Johnson go? Where does Kennard go? Can Bullock continue to look like, an NBA player who's getting better, which he didn't look like the first several years of his career. He's kind of found something here. Everybody else around this trade, can Reggie Jackson stay healthy? How does Andre Drummond's game mesh with Griffin's game? It's much more than just Blake, because now with so many assets tied up in Blake and tied up in Drummond and tied up in Jackson, you're really dependent upon other guys getting better. And a lot of people are caught up in the first-round pick. I'm not. I'm not one that believes in throwing it all away and tanking necessarily. That sometimes can work and sometimes doesn't. I mean, Philadelphia, everybody loves what they did because they got all these players. Well, right now they're hanging out of the 8th playoff spot in the East, and I know that they have young players that'll get better, but when and how long does that take? So there's different ways of doing things. Philadelphia may end up being a terrific player, but for where the Pistons were, where they were going, it is a trade probably, 55-45 I end up making.
And Sam Van truly might have had to make the move, a bold move like that, because he knows the writing is on the wall, at least partially, that his job is on the line. And maybe not for next season, but after the following campaign when his contract is set to expire. And that's just my take on it, and that's my vantage point on why Stan Van and the Pistons made this move at this time.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I don't think he cares. I really don't. Look, Stan Van Gundy got $35 million from the Pistons. He doesn't have a worry in the world. I think he wants to win. I don't think he made this trade out of desperation to keep his job. I think he made the trade, you can say out of desperation or whatever, to make this team better. An opportunity to pick up a guy like Blake Griffin doesn't come along very often. And where were they going if they don't make this deal? Avery Bradley's leaving. Tobias is probably leaving in the next summer unless you're going to pay him probably more than you want to. You're going to end up with another draft pick somewhere 12 to 16, which in the NBA, look, historically doesn't net you much. I don't see a path out for this team other than what they did. And I can't guarantee this is going to work, but I can look at the horizon for what they had going and where they were headed, and I don't know if that was going to work either.
The Pistons were stagnant, were losing a lot more than they were winning. And I do want to now pivot to the Detroit Lions, a team that you call games for on the radio. And looking at this looming hire of Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator of the New England Patriots, he's been the D coordinator for 6 seasons now with the Pats. And in each of those 6 seasons, the Pats have been in the top 10 in terms of scoring defense. So he's done very impressively with the Pats. And it's expected that he does get announced as the next Lions head coach at the conclusion of this year's Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on Matt Patricia likely becoming the next Lions head man?
Well, I mean, look, he's never done it before, so if somebody sits there and tells you they know he's going to be a great head coach, I don't know what that's worth. I can tell you this, from people that I have talked to, that know him, that have worked with him, people around the league, he is highly thought of for all the reasons that you would apply to a guy possibly becoming a good head coach. Smart, understands how to lead men, tireless worker. All the things that you want to see in somebody that you're handing the keys to for the team. And I've said this a number of times, and I'll say it again. I don't take it lightly, and I do put a lot of stock in the fact that Bob Quinn worked with him for a long time. And when you work with somebody for a long time, you get to know them. You get to know what you think of them. You get to know what you think of their work habits, their work ethic. And guys, I'm sure you can apply this to your lives, and people listening can apply it to their lives. Oftentimes there are people that you work with that others may think, man, they're terrific, and you, having worked with them, know that's not the case. Look, if you're Bob Quinn, this may be the only coach you get to hire. If this flames out spectacularly, you may be out along with him in a couple of years. So I think him putting his imprint on this team by hiring this guy says a lot to me. Now, look, anybody who hires a coach is going to have some conviction, but my point is I do think there is some value in the fact that these two have worked together before. He knows him. I don't think Bob Quinn ever does anything out of emotion. I think he is, I'll use the word ruthless when it comes to winning and losing and applying his decisions to only that.
Now, Dan, many people, when they evaluate the Lions, are saying, okay, good. Many people will find this place attractive because of the fact you have the franchise quarterback. And here on the podcast, we debated it as well. The head coach obviously is an important position, but also Bob Quinn's job is very important as well. What 1 or 2 positions must he address to improve this team, to get them over the hump, not only to get to the postseason, but to have some success and make some noise?
Look, I think the Lions' deficiencies are very easy to spot. I don't know how easy they will be to take care of, but this is what you're charged with doing this offseason. You need to figure out how to run the ball. Now, whether you think that was scheme, personnel, play calling, whatever it was, I guarantee you they have looked at this thing and they have a game plan to figure out how to take care of it. But there are very basic things in this league that you have to do to win more often than not. One of them is run the ball. They've been bad at it for a while. They got to figure that thing out. So whether that's a change up front, a change at running back, a change in the plays they call, the scheme they run, whatever it is. And, clearly when Ron Prince was one of the first guys let go and the only guy let go with Jim Caldwell, that told you that they weren't thrilled with the way that the offensive line had been run this past offseason. Secondarily, you need to stop the run. Now, it really hurt them last year when Haloti went out. And whether or not he comes back, I hope he does, but whether or not he comes back, you need to fortify that defensive line and your ability to stop the run and your vulnerability if you lose him again. So further on the defensive line, you need to figure out how to pressure the passer better. And if it were me, I would figure out a way to bring Ziggy back, even if it's on a 1-year tag. I would try to broach with him a multi-year deal where you might get him for a little less than the tag, but more guaranteed money. I don't know how that would work out. I just know that those guys are so rare that if my doctors tell me that there's nothing physically wrong with him, that he can't get over, he just needs to have a little luck in terms of staying healthy. If they tell me there's nothing that's degenerative in there and no big issues, that's where you have to trust your medical staff. I'm bringing him back, but you still need more. So look, guys, like I said, there's basic tenets to winning in the National Football League that the Lions didn't do well last year. You have to run the ball. You have to stop the run. You have to pressure the opposing passer. They need to do all those things better and figure out how to get better at those: personnel, scheme, play calling, whatever it is. And when they come back next year, those are the big things that they have to have done.
Well, Dan, it definitely seems like the Patriots and the Eagles know something about winning games, and much more consistently than the Lions do. So looking at that matchup in Super Bowl 52, the Pats going for Super Bowl championship number 6. Now, the Eagles going for the first one in their franchise's history. Who do you think gets it done on Super Bowl Sunday, and why?
Well, I'm not betting against Brady and Belichick. I'm just not. I mean, I respect what the Eagles have done. That's a heck of a defense they have. They run the ball well. I'm not convinced that Nick Foles is going to go in there and have a big game at quarterback. I think if you look at the last 3 games he played in the regular season, that offense really struggled. Now, you can make the case that it is a guy who had some rust on him and all of a sudden has found his game and he's better. I'm not buying that. I'm not a Nick Foles believer. And if the marquee matchup at the most important position in all of sports is Brady against Foles, I'm going with Brady. And it's not to take anything away from the Eagles. He's a backup quarterback under the brightest lights in the biggest game that we have in this sport. I think for Philadelphia to win, they're going to need to make a couple things happen on that defense. They're going to need to take the ball away a couple times, force Brady into making a couple of mistakes, and then control the ball offensively with their running game or quick passing game so that Foles doesn't have to stand back there and hang on to the ball too long. So I just think because of the matchup at quarterback and I think a mismatch at quarterback, I go with the Patriots. And look, I think we've all been around long enough to know if you're betting against Brady and Belichick in a big game, you're probably not going to make a real good living.
Well, unless you're Tom Coughlin and the New York Football Giants, I don't think you're beating the Patriots. But you need that great pass rush. And like you said, there was a bit of a mismatch at QB involving Tom Brady and Nick Foles. Nick Foles is a backup, has been a backup for a large portion of his NFL career because of something, because he is a backup. And that's all I can say about that matchup. John.
Everyone is curious as well. How does Dan Miller celebrate watching the Super Bowl? Because Vito and I were talking, and sometimes you have a party, and you kind of want. Some people want to watch the commercials. Some people are novices in terms of football. But how does Dan Miller experience the Super Bowl? Are you strict, or are you laid back, enjoying a food tray and having a good old time?
Oh, I'm chilling. You know what? I am really lucky. I got a family that loves football. They love sitting around and watching games on Saturday, college, Sunday, NFL. Wife, daughters, son, whoever's home at the time, they all love just chilling. They've been talking about the menu for a couple weeks now, so I think we'll be loaded up with food, sitting back, watching the game, probably cracking a few beers and just enjoying it, and it'll be a laid-back day with a lot of food and just getting ready to enjoy the game.
What's your favorite meal for the Super Bowl?
Oh, I'm a wings guy. Give me a nice artichoke dip, buffalo chicken dip. A little shrimp. I'm all about that stuff, plenty of finger food. And I'm sure that knowing my family's, love of Mexican food, there'll be some tacos and stuff like that mixed in there. But I think there'll be a little something for everybody when it all is said and done.
Yeah, you have to have the finger food. You're really doing a platter of just a variety of different foods, I think, to really enjoy yourself. And Dan, please do so. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Great talking to you. Always a pleasure having you on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network as well.
Appreciate it, guys. Anytime.
That was Dan Miller. Always enjoy the conversation. Dan would have a crew, everybody around him that knows football, because, the reason why you ask is people will debate, because people get together and things like that. And you always have that one person that's like, what's that yellow line doing on the TV? What's this and what's that? And I'm sitting there kind of cringing my teeth going, or they come up with things like, man, that Eagles defense looks awesome. They must be the best ever. And you just kind of have those novices around. There's always one. Usually there's not a lot of novices that go to a Super Bowl party. You know what I mean? But there's always that one person that's a little bit awkward that sometimes doesn't know football. But Dan surrounds himself with all the right people. What about you? You surround yourself with all the right people when you're watching a game?
I can't guarantee that. Mm-hmm. From Super Bowl to Super Bowl, because I do I hang out with different people almost every single Super Bowl. It's not like the same crowd every single Super Bowl. So I think because of that, too, Doc, taking that into account, that I don't always surround myself with the most knowledgeable football minds. I'll just say that much. And it's not a big deal to me. No! It's not an big, like no for me because I'm just used to it watching it with people that aren't as big of aficionados. And I don't even call myself an expert or an aficionado. I'm not really in terms of football and knowing the ins and outs, the X's and O's like Dan Miller. And that's why we had him on, didn't we?
Very good stuff. Very good insight. Yeah, most people are not going to bet against the New England Patriots.
You just can't, right?
Right, exactly. You just can't. It's almost impossible to try and think of ways in which, Tom Brady's not going to come through, especially against the Eagles. If it was against maybe Carson Wentz and things like that, but there is a chance if the Philadelphia Eagles take the us against the world mentality, there is a chance for them to come away with the victory. And Vito, you got to remember, while Matt Patricia and McDaniels have been working on the Super Bowl game plan, they've also been working, and I don't know how exactly hard it is, but they've also been working to organize their staffs because both of the defensive and offensive coordinators at New England are taking other jobs. So that could be enough of a distraction where the Philadelphia Eagles could take advantage of it if there's just the slightest bit of distractions. And I'm assuming Matt Patricia trying to figure out a staff, Josh McDaniels trying to figure out a staff at his new position. So you look at it and you say, how much did it take away from their current game planning? And so that might be just enough to let the Philadelphia Eagles slide in there because you're almost certain they're game planning 24/7.
But the Pats are so cerebral and focused, like laser focused. I don't think they're even thinking about their coaching staffs right now going into Super Bowl 52. And I think a blowout. I can't stop predicting that. I'm going to predict the blowout in favor of the Patriots, obviously, too, Doc.
All right, who are we dialing up next, Vito?
Sky Kerstein, also of, guess what entity? What station? Fox 2, Detroit. He'll be on with us right now. The sky's always high, and sky's always the limit when it comes to the next guest on this week's episode of Check the Report. That is Mr. Sky Kerstein of Fox 2 Detroit. Sky, how are you doing?
What up, boys? I'm outside Little Caesars Arena. It's a big night. Blake Griffin's making his Pistons debut. If that doesn't excite you, well, I don't know what would.
Well, that should get some people to show up for the game tonight as well. And you would think people are excited about Blake Griffin coming over from the LA Clippers. Now, really quick to start off here, Sky. You are the sports multimedia journalist and producer for Fox 2 Sports. Now, what does that specifically entail for all of those out there, including myself kind of, that don't know what the heck you do?
I pretty much run our sports side of our website. Social media aspects, Fox 2 Sports on Twitter, fox2detroit.com/sports. What we like to do is bring fans right to the action. So what I try doing is putting up press conferences from everything we cover onto the website immediately afterwards. So fans can hear directly from, their favorite athletes, their favorite coaches, whatever they like. And the cool part about it is, if you're really mad at a decision after the game, you could go to fox2detroit.com/sports and understand their reasoning behind that decision. What happened? They didn't like the call an official made. If they put somebody in there who you didn't think should be playing at that time. Not always the case around professional sports or collegiate sports, especially journalism-wise, where you're reading it. With fox2detroit.com, it takes you right to the action. And if you check it out, we have Michigan State post-game from last night, tons of Michigan State stuff, obviously, with what's going on there. We have tons of Pistons stuff up there, Blake Griffin press conference. So whatever you guys need, definitely check it out.
Before we start talking about the Super Bowl, what did you make of the trade the Detroit Pistons made to acquire Blake Griffin?
Well, I'm just glad you didn't ask me about the Alex Smith trade, because otherwise we would not be talking right now. You'd be bleeping everything. But besides that one, this trade, I think it's more of a let's see what happens because we're not going anywhere this year kind of thing. They got to switch things up. They gave Tobias Harris up, who I really like. Avery Bradley looks good come back here anyways. So I think it's an average trade, I guess. It's mainly just to put fans in the seats around here. There haven't been a lot of fans in seats. So this will do it. It excites people, but does it put them over the edge? Does it make them a contender in the East? No. Now, maybe if you have a star here, other stars will come. You kind of need that, but still, it doesn't make you elite. And think about this, guys. DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul played with Blake Griffin with the Clippers, and they still didn't win. So you're telling me Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson, who you really can't count on being healthy, is going to put them over the edge? I don't know.
All right, Sky, you piqued my curiosity. I'm very curious. Who do you think has a chance for more success? Blake Griffin with the Pistons or Alex Smith with the Redskins?
Blake Griffin with the Pistons. I'm a DC guy. I covered the Redskins for years, so I don't put a lot of faith in what goes on there. And I think Blake Griffin has a much better chance in the Eastern Conference here. But again, are you better than a Cavs team when they're rolling and Kevin Love's healthy, or a Celtics team? Probably not.
I'm curious why you're not thrilled that you got the ultimate game manager over there as the quarterback of the Redskins. You're not thrilled?
Sexy Lexi right there, Sky.
Everything because they shouldn't have ever come to that. They should have signed Kirk Cousins when they had that chance, and they didn't do that. So that's what it all came down to. They should never have been in this position. They should never have given up their top defensive player in Kyle Fuller, and that's the biggest issue. Give up too much. Now you have a contract that's not very friendly for a guy who's 34 years old, when you could have had a team-friendly contract with a guy who's, Cousins probably 27, 28, somewhere around there. I think they're both about the same quarterbacks. I don't know if they'll get you to a Super Bowl when you don't have a strong defense, but now you have to go out and wait to draft pick on another quarterback, and so they just really falling behind the eight ball. It's freezing right now.
I can tell you are. It's all right. Hey, we're trying to make the most of this, all right? And we know you're able to because the sky's the limit whenever you're on, Sky. Now,
I'm on Throat Street right now, right outside.
We're going to deal with it. It's more than fine, Sky. We appreciate the time now. Really quick, I love talking about Sexy Lexi, Alex Smith, Kirk Cousins all day long, but how about Sexy Matty Patty? Matt Patricia, the looming Detroit Lions head coach, expected to be hired at the conclusion of Super Bowl 52. What are your thoughts on him being the next Lions head coach?
Well, defense wins the majority of the time. Now, when you have a guy like Tom Brady, it really doesn't matter. But when you have a guy like Nick Foles, you need to have a strong defense. Now, I'm not saying that's a knock on Matt Patricia. I think he's an excellent coach, and I think he'll be an excellent coach here. I think he is an excellent coach. Now it's just getting the Patriot way to work, which hasn't really worked outside of New England. So we'll see if that happens here. You had Bob Quinn, but it was a no-brainer. Last year they gave Caldwell a chance. But again, you better hope he goes better than 9-7. Otherwise, you're going to be questioned a lot. But I really like the hire.
I love the hire, too, because, you know what? Patricia is cut from a completely different cloth than Jim Caldwell. So I love it just because of that. But also, you have to warn fans out there that hiring him because he's from the Patriots doesn't guarantee success. And as much as the Patriots have garnered as a franchise, going for Lombardi Trophy number 6, will they be hoisting that trophy at the end of this year's Super Bowl?
I think New England will win, let's say, 34-21, something like that. I think they're the better team, and Tom Brady obviously is the greatest quarterback ever. And they've been there and they've done that. And Woody's laughing at me right now because I said that. But I think that they're the much better team. So let's say 34-21. New England wins.
Sky will let you go with that. Best of luck to you. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and I hope you stay safe out there and stay relaxed and keep enjoying life too.
Thanks, boys. Sorry I can spend more time with you, but thank you very much for having me on.
No problem.
We'll have you on again. Be well. Tell Woody we said hello.
And that was Sky Kerstein of Fox 2 Detroit. He is a multimedia journalist and producer at Fox 2 in the sports department. Does a lot of stuff with the website, as he was saying as well.
Now, Vito, I got a little bone to pick with you. Not a big one, but it's a minor violation what you did there. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you asked a question. The first question you asked is, I'm not certain what a multimedia journalist does. Now, had you listened to the interview where you sat in this office, where I asked him specifically...
Oh, you did? Well, maybe I wasn't listening. Hey, I'll admit the truth. I don't always listen to what you're asking, especially because it's you.
For those that don't remember, Sky Kerstein was one of the individuals who sat here in this office and partaked in the one-on-one podcast. Now, not all of them does Vito sit in on, but that one, you were there right next to me listening. And so for you not to recall and ask that was funny to me because I was like, he explained it to us when he sat here when I asked him what is a multimedia journalist. And so that was funny to me. It's a minor violation, but it's okay.
Really quick, it wasn't a slight to you. I know you talked about it to your audience for one-on-one podcast, which that one was recorded a long time ago. We had to refresh everybody, right? Because including myself about what he does, what that entails. It's just a basic question, but maybe a basic violation too. Very basic violation, Doc.
You're a dick.
Thank you. And you're saying that to me because I'm not trying to slight you, but I guess I am. and your one-on-one podcast.
It's all good, Vito. I got a lot more work to do with you, but we'll make it happen. I enjoy the conversation with Sky. He's a very fun dude. You can basically break balls with him. He's very funny, and like I said, he's an individual where you can go up to him. He's very approachable. Despite what everyone else thinks, he's a nice individual. I enjoyed the conversation, and he's actually given us a lot of really good advice regarding interviewing and things like that. The reason why we've been able to have success at these pressers and things like that is largely due to the fact that people in town have taken us under their wing and shared information with us, and it's been really great to know Sky and always enjoy the conversation with him.
He's one of the nicest dudes in the media, and Dan Miller always willing to give his time to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network as well. First time for me talking to him. Hope it went all right. I think it went all right at least.
All right, Vito, let's get out of here. If you've enjoyed this podcast and the other podcasts on the network, support us. You can visit us via our social media platforms. You can follow Vito at Vito Jerome. You can follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Also, the free and easy way to support us, visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Rate and subscribe via iTunes. You can find out everything that we do here each and every day.
Jim Caldwell might be gone, but you can still always check the report on this podcast. Check the report. Adios, guys.